Hello, folks. Welcome to my YouTube channel. I had to go to the doctor today and get that cough syrup refilled, and she wrote me a prescription earlier and put me on 250 milligrams of antibiotics and try to see if that makes me feel better and everything. But I want to talk about two things today, folks. Starting out, I want to talk about is it just me, or is every time that you go to the doctor these days, the first thing they want to do is ram a Q-tip up your nose, because of that so called COVID 19? Well, they tried to do me that way today, and I told them no. And the reason that I said no to them is because in the past, they would take a Q-tip and ram it all the way up in your nose, where it would hurt and stuff. But no, she said they don't do that now. She said they just take the Q-tip and go just barely up in your nose now to see if you have it. And I told her I didn't even believe in COVID 19, folks. I think that was political. But anyway, that's how I feel now. I hate going to the doctor because every time you go to the doctor for like a cold or sniffles, and it's just as simple as a sinus infection, they want to check you for COVID 19. And we're no longer in the pandemic, folks, so I don't really see why they insist that people get COVID 19 checks every time they go in. But anyway, I got that out of the way. So, what we're going to talk about today, folks, as far as the narcissists are concerned, uh, we're going to talk about the gaslighting thing. And what the gaslighting thing is about with the narcissist. I put it to you this way. The gaslighting thing is like a emotional roller coaster. Like, for example, the one that I used to live, that guy, malignant narcissist that I lived with down in Lebanon, Kentucky. He always done porn and stuff like that, and I would always hear him, when I'd be in the other room and he didn't realize that I did, and I would ask him about it. And he would be like, "You're crazy. You know you didn't hear that." And I said, "No." I said, "Last time I looked, I think I'm pretty normal." I said, "I know what I heard." And then he turned around and said that he had to go to the store to get something, and he was gone for like an hour or so. And I looked out the window, and he had a prostitute getting out of the car of his van. He denied that up and down, and I got abused for asking him about it, because all of my abusive partners were physical abusive. And if you tried to ask them anything, they would get all irate and stuff and wanted to use you for a punching bag. But yeah, that's what gaslighting is too, folks. And what they want to do is they want to try to bring you down to the lowest that they can get you and have you to feel like that you're doubting yourself, that a lot of stuff that you say is not true, but everything that the narcissist says is supposed to be true. But that's how I put gaslighting, folks. And not only that, they isolate you from family and friends and stuff, because they know family and friends would probably see through that facade if they were around and everything. So they don't want you to let nobody around to try to figure them out, because otherwise that mask would slip and give their behavior away, folks. But that's what that's all about. And that's just my way of putting it, folks. It's just another abuse tactic to bring you down below their level and make you feel like that you're under them, that you're sort of like a slave to them, and that you ain't as good as they are or whatever. Because the narcissist is all about themselves and they want to be above everybody. And that's just how they are, folks. But I never believed anything that they said. You know, after I was with them for a while, I knew they were hauling with a half a barrel load, but I wasn't quite sure how far they was hauling. You know, I'll put it to you that way. And that was before I knew what narcissists are. You know, I'd be sitting on the couch or something like that, just sitting there meditating about it when they would be gone or something, and I would be like, what makes these guys tick anyway? You know, what makes them the way they are? Because I didn't understand narcissism, folks. I was very naive to it, and really and truly, I think maybe that might have been how I got myself in abuse, was because there was a few of those patterns that I never really knew a whole lot about. I just kind of drew my own conclusion on them and everything. And I just said they didn't have, they had a dozen of eggs and six were missing. That's the way I put it, folks. Ain't that funny? But, you know, that's just how they are, folks. They want to isolate you and keep you from doing whatever you want to do, or you can't go nowhere. You got to stay right there with them under their thumb constantly, you know, like a scared rabbit, you know, because you know that you can't really talk to them, because if you say something they don't like when they're physically abusive, they're liable to lash out and beat the daylights out of you, you know. And believe me, I've been there, folks. And that's why they're so dangerous, and you have to be really careful with them, because they're kind of like a stick of dynamite getting ready to go off at any given moment. And that's just my way of looking at it. But, you know, some people may put it in all them fancy words and stuff like that. I'm putting it all together and telling you exactly how I feel about them, you know. And they also send you on a emotional roller coaster. You know, they may have like a good day and decide that they're going to be on the best behavior that they can be, folks, and make you feel like that they're going to change or something like that, and that maybe there's a possibility that you could be in a good relationship with them and stuff, folks. All except for if you mention the wrong thing, that's when all heck breaks loose. I'm not going to say the cuss word, but I'm telling you, folks, these guys are like up and down, up and down, up and down, and up and down with their mood, you know. And there's not very many things that they like either when it comes to somebody else dictating to them. They get really upset about it. But that's just how I put gaslighting, folks, and this goes on all the time that you're with them too. It never stops. You'll be on the honeymoon stage where they're all sweet and they're gonna change and they're gonna go get counseling, and I've heard that so many times, you know. And that never happens. They do that as a tactic to draw you back into the relationship if you leave. And then once you go back, it may last about a week, 2 weeks, maybe a month or something like that. And then after that month, boom, it goes right back to the abusive pattern. And it does that all the time, folks. Every time that they decide that they want to abuse you, it just depends on what mood they're in. It's almost like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Hang on a minute. What? I will. I will in a minute. It's my husband trying to talk to me while I'm doing a video again. We wore each other out today, folks. We ran all over town. My husband went all the way to Hodgkinsville to take care of some business that he had to take care of. And then when we got back, then we stopped by Subway and got one of them meatball sandwiches. Oh, it was so good, folks. And then we went to the grocery store and done some grocery shopping. And then when we got home, I packed all that stuff in and put some of that stuff up. Because he had stuff like ice cream and things like that, you know. And when I went over to Walgreens to pick up my medication, it took a while to get my medication filled because Walgreens is so slow when they fill them. And so we waited over there for a little bit, and his ice cream was about ready to melt when I put it in the freezer. Hi, folks. I hope you're doing okay. But I'm hoping that if anybody does get in these relationships, folks, that they do research on the red flags and see because they have videos on here, folks, where the therapists know how to explain it in the right way. You know, when they can get you guys to understand what really and truly goes on with different traits of them and stuff, folks, the red flags. And that way it can help you guys stay clear of those relationships. I just never did, after I left abuse and decided that I was never going to get back into it again, folks, I just never went in and studied on it or anything like that, or tried to keep track of it or anything, because I knew I wasn't planning on getting back in it anyway. But I do still go on videos once in a while, and I, watch the videos and see what all it is and everything, folks. And, I would be like, darn, you mean to tell me I went through all that stuff? Because when you don't know anything about it, folks, you do kind of feel dumbfounded and stuff, because you didn't realize that you were putting up with all that stuff till after you'd gotten out and started to heal. And then once you get to the point where you're almost healed completely, then you look back and you think to yourself, what in the world was I trying to do anyway by being in that kind of stuff? I always, for a long time, thought there was something wrong with me. And what it was, folks, the narcissist had me programmed to feel that way about myself. And that's what they do because they don't want you to succeed, folks. But I wanted to get on here and tell y'all where I've been and stuff, and hope that you're having a nice evening, folks. And I hope that this helps anybody else, this video and everything, because I wouldn't want to see anyone suffer the way I did back in the past, folks. You know, it's just not fair for narcissists to do that to people and them not know what's going on. Well, thank you for joining my YouTube channel, folks. You have a nice evening and a blessed evening, too. You got this, folks. You're awesome. Bye-bye.